Dust off your work shirt, pull on some aviators, call up your girl. Time to go racing in the street. Here, in all their late 60s glory, are the icons of the American muscle car era. There's nothing not to like about cars like these. So what story are you going to write today, and where to start? Back in 1968, with the Hearst performance-fettled Oldsmobile Cutlass, or in psychedelic 1969, when the hippies were welcoming the age of Aquarius, but the rest of us were more interested in the 366 bhp Pontiac GTO Judge. By 1970, the muscle car era was drawing to a close. Time for one last hurrah in the minds of muscle car engineers. Hence the 454 cubic inches V8 in the Chevelle SS. Before you reach for your calculator app, yep, that's 7.4 litres. So what are you waiting for? Just pretend it's Friday and the bell's just rung. You might want to turn the volume up for this lot. A whole paddock of racing pony cars with big engines and even bigger names from the American Trans Am scene from the late 1960s. Actually, there's one that snuck in that never raced, but the 1977 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am did star in Smokey and the Bandit. And if it's good enough for Burt Reynolds, it's good enough for us. Burt's Firebird's two predecessors, the 69 and the 73, did compete. The latter with a 7.5-litre V8. Not that such a huge engine was any guarantee of success. If you want to race a winner, try the Boss Mustang and the AMC Javelin, all Trans Am champions in one form or another. Lastly, the car with the very bestest name here, the 1970 Mercury Cougar Eliminator. If you're here looking for delicately balanced namby-pamby European sports cars, you are in the wrong place.
Muscle cars were once engineered to make ordinary cars go faster. Like men once went to the gym to make themselves go faster. These days, men who spend time in the gym and those shops where they sell milkshakes that make you look like Arnold Schwarzenegger are not doing it because they want to be better at sports, are they? They're doing it because they want their clothes to look too small for them. These muscle cars are more like modern muscle men, bulging in all the right places, but not necessarily any more sporting. The legendary Buick Regal GNX was at least NASCAR-derived and McLaren-engineered, but that didn't stop it having some interesting habits when driven hard. The 1993 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra, meanwhile, was a last-ditch attempt to bolt on some credibility and some speed to the generally forgettable third-generation Mustang. I'm not saying the cars are slow, they're not, or unexciting, they're not. It's just that, like that man with the power shake, they're maybe a bit embarrassing to be seen out with. A collection of American muscle cars from the 1980s and 90s in the other group, fast but flawed cars developed to put a shine on otherwise forgettable models, you'll know by now that sometimes more power isn't always enough. The latest breed of muscle car proves, however, that thankfully it usually is. The 2007 Shelby GT500 produces exactly 500 brake horsepower and drives better than a car costing less than $50,000 has any right to. Remarkably, the Mustang has rivals, and two of them are here. The Chevy Camaro ZL1 with its 580 brake horsepower V8 and the Dodge Challenger SRT8 392 with its throwback cubic inches badge. In modern money, that's 6.4 litres. Drive them. Drive them all and take comfort in the knowledge that there are people out there, besides Clarkson, who will never believe you can have enough power.
Everything is an icon these days. Phones, fridges, football players, but these cars really are. Remarkably, one man, the much-missed Carroll Shelby, had a hand in 3 of them. Shelby had won Le Mans and beaten Ferrari in an Aston Martin, but wanted to win in his own car. The Cobra, a shotgun marriage of a European AC chassis and American Ford V8 muscle, was his first attempt. But the GTO was faster, especially in a straight line. Something purpose-built, money-no-object was needed, and Ford gave Shelby its checkbook. The GT40, created exclusively with the purpose of beating Ferrari at Le Mans, was the result. And beat Ferrari it did in 1966, in 1967, in 1968 and in 1969. Ferrari had won the previous 6 races. It hasn't won at Le Mans since.
Turn of the century, Le Mans wasn't just a race you visited to watch Audi repeatedly walk off with the big trophy. It was a race you visited to watch harder, nastier GT versions of fast road cars kicking great lumps out of each other's bodywork. Here then we have some of the finest production cars born of the racetrack. Cars like the Dodge Viper GTS ACR, a car so violent it makes the normal 8-litre V10 powered Viper look timid. Cars like the 360 Challenge Stradale, which packed Ferrari's GT racing know-how into a car you could drive to the shops, as long as you didn't mind arriving at the shops with blood gushing from your ears. Many of these cars should never have been allowed on the public road. They were designed to race, and be warned, they do not suffer fools gladly. Tread carefully and pack fresh undergarments. Welcome to the bloodiest battleground in the world of cars. A fight for supremacy between the very best fast cars of our time. It is a battleground of radically different weapons. Compare, for example, the fastest car General Motors has ever made, the 638 horsepower Corvette ZR1, with the digital masterpiece that offers up more go for your pound, dollar, yen or dirham than anything else on the planet, the Nissan GTR. Others are subtler, as precise as a surgeon's blade, like the Ferrari 458, which might just be the finest car the Italians have ever made. And then there are cars that are far from perfect, but with that certain something. Like the Lexus LFA, this is for me the most brilliant supercar ever made. If you disagree, you're wrong. Let battle commence. 200 miles an hour. It's a number that's led us to some of the most astonishing cars ever to grace our roads. The first true 200-mile-an-hour road car was the Ferrari F40. It arrived back in 1987, yet more than a quarter of a century later, it remains the most exhilarating car you'll ever drive. Over the following years, other road cars squeezed into Ferrari's 200-mile-an-hour territory until another F1 team arrived to really raise the bar. The McLaren F1 of 1993 melded a BMW V12 and space-grade materials to achieve a staggering 240 miles an hour. Even 20 years on, only a couple of cars have ever gone faster. All the cars you see here are fully paid-up members of the 200-mile-an-hour club. Just remember to give them the respect that they deserve.
There are many ways to go very fast around a track like ours. You can choose four-wheel drive or rear drive, mid-engined or front-engine, great big V12 or little V8 with a turbocharger. All those options are here in this group. There are two super Mercedes here, the SLR and the SLS, and the car Clarkson says is the best car he's ever driven, probably in the world, the Lexus LFA. But if there is one standout car in this group, it surely has to be the McLaren F1. The only car here where you sit in the middle. The only car made of real gold. The only car that will still silence any group of men as it drives by.
This group demonstrates what engineers can do when they're allowed to go completely mad. There's nothing here you should not experience at least once. Just about every kind and configuration is here. Some have their engines in the middle, some at the front, some have rear drive, some send their horsepowers to all four corners. All, however, do have one thing in common. They all look as fast as they're supposed to be. Some people say that the Pagani and the Koenigsegg Agera are racing cars with stereos, but that isn't necessarily so. Road cars may be more powerful than racers, but they're often softer and kinder and squidgier. Be in no doubt, this is a very good place to spend rather more time than you should. Back when Concorde retired, it felt like the world had run out of ideas and the money needed to keep making planes faster and faster. Well, thankfully, the world's motor car engineers are made of stronger stuff than their colleagues in aerospace. The end of Concorde seemed to signal the start of a ground-based air race, the era of the hypercar. Take Pagani. The Zonda Cinque was meant to be the last evolution of Horacio Pagani's first attempt at a supercar. It wasn't. We were still pinching ourselves to believe a man with such a ridiculous name could build such a ridiculously brilliant and beautiful car when he came up with another, the even more extraordinary Huayra. And then, of course, there's the new McLaren P1, a 900 horsepower hybrid which might just turn out to be the greatest hypercar of them all. It'll be fun finding out. There are many, many things a road car must do that a race car need not. It needs to keep its driver comfortable and cool, and ideally in an environment in which it's not only possible to listen to the radio, but to hold a conversation as well. It must be able to give its driver every possible opportunity to avoid an accident, and when he runs out of talent and luck, protect him like a mummy polar bear protects her cub. Now, imagine if you could strip out all of those requirements. And that brings us to this, the Ferrari 458 Italia and the latest racing Viper. Very different, but both viciously effective.
Been to Le Mans, you'll know that the real racing goes on behind the one-off prototypes, where extreme versions of the same supercars you see parked in the paddock go wheel to wheel out on the circuit. This is GT racing, where if you've got the money, you can make all your racing driver fantasies come true. You don't even have to be fast. If you can afford one of these cars, you can afford to pay a professional driver to do all the hard work and just turn up on the podium. But where's the fun in that? There are GT series all over the world, and slowly all the regulations are coming together. But that needn't bother you with this group. The BMW M3 GT2 was first designed to race in the US, but has raced with considerable success all over the world. Corvette Racing, meanwhile, is the most successful team ever in the American Le Mans series, and has taken its racers and the GT battle successfully to Le Mans.
If the Stig was given the keys to a car company, these are the cars he would make us drive. You see, a man who senses only how fast or how sideways he's going doesn't care if he's cold or wet or being machine-gunned with insects. You and I do, however. So we'd only consider driving cars like these if the upside was intergalactic joy. These are the cars that represent the mantra of Lotus founder Colin Chapman, who said, "Simplify and add lightness." Lotus themselves have never forgotten this, which is why they came up with the remarkable 211. It's based on the Elysis, most Lotuses have been for years, but it does without frivolous things, like a windscreen, all in the name of saving weight. You won't find a screen on the KTM Crossbow either. Being made by sensible Austrians, they do offer one as an option, but it looks silly, and worse still, it adds weight. So forget that, and just enjoy the car. There are fast cars, there are very fast cars, and there are very, very fast cars. And then there are cars for which whole new words are needed. Cars like the Ariel Atom V8. When I first drove the original Atom, I didn't believe that the human senses or face could survive any more of a pounding. Clearly, however, the chaps who work in Ariel's top secret shed in the English countryside thought I was wrong. Which is why, a couple of years ago, Ariel decided it would be a great idea to remove the supercharged 275 horsepower Honda engine from the Atom and replace it with a 500 horsepower V8. Lightweight track day specials simply don't get more extreme than this. Captain Slow still hasn't recovered from driving it, but are you made of stronger stuff?